Now you see it, now you don't. This is the state of my kitchen right now. Overstimulated by all the decisions. I can't find the right paint color for my cabinets. All of those are atrocious to me. They're coming from Benjamin Moore. For whatever reason, they seem to have the greens that people are wanting in their kitchen cabinets. Afraid if I went with the balsam that it would be like, we're off to see the wizard. The hardware store to look for holes for my kitchen cabinets. I got to nail on a color and then nail down a style, and I'm just like, I'm overwhelmed. I have been teasing this video for several weeks now, but it is time. It is time to show you guys around my new kitchen. We just completed a 2-month kitchen renovation. I'm getting ready to start working on dinner for the evening, so I thought it would be a good time to give you a little tour as I'm working, show you some of the things we kept, some of the things we got rid of, share some of my favorite amenities in this new space. So come along, take a look. I'll reiterate some of the things that I mentioned in the video a couple months back where I was packing up my kitchen. My husband and I have been in this house for 7 years, and we've known for about probably 3 or 4 years that we are either going to move or we are going to need to start renovations and updates to the home that we're in. And the kitchen was at the top of the list. So once we made the decision to stay where we are, we had already been accruing money, savings, budgeting for this renovation for several years. And a lot of people were surprised to find out that we were considering this, and I guess I take that as a compliment that I have hidden some of the wear and tear on our kitchen very well. It doesn't always show on camera the things that you can see with the naked eye when you are actually standing in our kitchen. And while we used it frequently and loved it well, and I was able to build a business in that kitchen, it was just time to address some of the functionality issues and also just give it a little refresh. You know, address some of the wear and tear, address some of the functionality and layout issues that we were wanting to change, and make it be the kitchen that we were wanting as our family gets older and as we enter this new season with teenagers. Tomatoes, onions, jalapeno, little lime juice and salt, cilantro if you like it. I like to get that going a little earlier in the day and then pop it in the refrigerator for a few hours before I serve it. You've seen me make this like dozens of times. My top priority with a new kitchen, like #1 on my wish list, was seating at the counter. We have always had a nice big island in the center of the kitchen, and actually the base footprint of the island has not changed. The base of it is the same size. But in our previous island, the counter was not large enough. It didn't have a large enough overhang for me to put any stools underneath it so that people could sit around it. What would happen is people would gather in the kitchen, but they would be standing around in the walkway around the island, or they would be sitting on top of the counters around the kitchen. So like I said, we kept the base of the kitchen island the same, but we made one side of the counter on top of the island much longer so that we could put bar stools around it and have a place for people to sit. One of the things this necessitated was the removal of some of our cabinets because people were going to be sitting now in what was previously the walkway. And in this kitchen, like lots of 80s and 90s home builds, there was a desk with a little bit of cabinetry around it. Leave me a comment below if you have ever lived in a house that had a desk in the kitchen. At least half of the houses I've ever lived in, and that's probably 6 or 7 homes at this point, have had that amenity, the desk, in the kitchen. The thing is though, nobody ever sat at that desk. In fact, I put bins and containers underneath it so that I could store backpacks and lunch pails. You've seen me actually do that in videos. So we ended up actually taking those cabinets and the desk out completely, and we did not put anything back on that wall. So now there's plenty of space for people to move around. The walkway is behind where the bar stools and the counter are, where that desk and cabinetry used to be. And yes, I know this is just a big empty wall, but I have a plan. I think what I'm gonna do with this space is a big grouping of lots of pictures. So I'll have some pictures of my family hanging out in the kitchen, but also I have tons of pictures of plated food that I have made over the years. Pictures that I have taken for thumbnails on this channel. See Mindy Mom, like nice plated pictures of dinners that I have made. So I'm thinking about picking out a few of those to put up here, and also putting like my YouTube silver play button, my letter from YouTube when I reached 100,000 subscribers, kind of having this be a little bit of a nod to this also being my workspace, you know? Kind of like how we hang our diplomas and our certifications in our offices. This is sort of my office. So I think I might put my silver play button up. But Mindy, this is where the coffee maker used to be. And we know you love your coffee because you are holding a coffee cup in about half of the videos that you make. So where did the coffee move to? Let me show you. So this wall is where the desk and the cabinetry used to be, that is now a walkway behind the island and the bar stools. And right next to it is our new dry bar. We debated whether or not to actually make this a wet bar. The difference between a wet bar and a dry bar is exactly what it sounds like. A wet bar usually has a sink, but all the plumbing is on the other side of the kitchen. And we decided with the sink right behind us that we really didn't need to make this a wet bar. So standard kitchen counters, I found out, are about 24 inches, and that's how much you would need probably to have like a refrigerator or something installed down here. But we decided instead to shorten this cabinetry and make it only 18 inches and make it be a space for our coffee makers and also for cocktails. So a lot of our glassware and our blenders and the liquor is stored over here, and also all of the coffee makers, coffee mugs. It is easily stored in this little dry bar area of the kitchen that we have specified for this use now. Mindy, what about all the cabinet space you lost? Aren't you gonna miss that storage space? Well, hopefully you can tell in these pictures here that the cabinets now go all the way to the ceiling. Before, they stopped about 18 inches. So I actually have an extra 18 inches of storage space. And is it less accessible? Yes, but there are plenty of things that I don't use very often, maybe only a couple times a year, that I can store up there and just get down when I need to. So I actually have the same amount of storage space that I had before, even without some of the cabinetry going back in. And I knew that I wanted to go with green cabinetry. Green is my favorite color. I like lots of different shades of green, but picking one out proved to be very tricky. A friend of mine made this suggestion and I ended up going with it. The shade is from Benjamin Moore. It's called Cushing Green. And since we were building all new custom cabinetry, taking it to the ceiling, painting them green, we went with the inside hinges. So the hinges are on the inside, and this is the soft touch close. So all you have to do is kind of gently push it and then it will close the cabinet on its own. So basically the cabinet doors don't slam. There's no sound. I'm sure you've already noticed that I went with white countertops. Some of the decisions that I made had to do with filming. I mean, I do have a business here that I run pretty much in my kitchen, making cooking content. And so I am thinking about how things are gonna film, how things are gonna photograph. So I did go with the pop of color on the cabinets and then white countertops, white backsplash. But the backsplash tile actually has a little bit of texture to it. So if you're standing in the kitchen, you can see that. On camera, it might not be as evident, which is just fine, but it adds just a little bit of interest and a little bit of depth to the backsplash when you're here in person in the kitchen. We never had a really great space for a trash can in the kitchen, so we did have a trash drawer placed next to the sink. And I am super excited to have 2 proper pan drawers now underneath the stove, so all of my pans can be stored right here where I use them. But one of my absolute favorite cabinet amenities that I would not have thought of, this was actually a suggestion by the contractor and the cabinet maker, the person who built the custom cabinets, are these 2 cabinets right on either side of the stove. They're actually not cabinets, they're drawers. This one pulls out and it has little canisters in it so that you can store your utensils in here next to your stove. And there's another shelf down there for more utensils. And then the drawer on the other side is a spice rack. So I put some of the spices and seasonings that I use regularly here on the top, and then I put some of the baking things here on the bottom, and then stuff I use less regularly down here. So these don't have to take up another cabinet in another spot in the kitchen, and they also don't have to hang out in my pantry anymore and take up space there. The pan drawers going in underneath the stove allowed me to move the pans out from this space. In our previous cabinets, there was a Lazy Susan here, and so we had them put one in this corner also, which just makes this a much more useful space. But I decided to put the kids' lunch packing things and some of the kind of plastic Tupperware things down here. And I put these bins and baskets just to make it easier to keep things organized, especially little containers. So it's very easy for the kids to take these bins out when it's time to start packing lunches again, and use the containers that are in here and still have plenty of room to store and an easy way to access everything that's in this cabinet. And these bins just came from Dollar Tree. They've had this size bin for a long time. I got some more. I've used these in my pantry for a long time, and I just picked up some more of them to use here on this Lazy Susan, but they also had these at Dollar Tree, so I picked up a few of them to use around the kitchen as well, these baskets. And then above this cabinet, in sort of the same corner of the kitchen, this was kind of a problematic or just unuseful area before. I didn't really know what to put in this cabinet, so they put a Lazy Susan in this time to make it much more useful. And I put a lot of my cooking oils and baking powder and salt and cooking spray and stuff right here, the kinds of things that are going to be nice to have really close to my stove, because we're actually standing right next to the stove, and the Lazy Susan is going to make everything very accessible. I do want to give a shout out to Nate and his crew at Fresh Start Homes. That is the company we use. They came highly recommended by some friends of ours here in Tulsa. They were very attentive. They were very knowledgeable. Nate was with us every step of the way because he knew that we had never done a project this large before. He even went with me to help pick out countertops and tile backsplash. If you happen to be in the Tulsa area and you are thinking about a renovation, even other parts of the house, bathrooms, remodels and updates, be sure to check them out. I will leave them linked in the description box below. So far I mentioned a lot of new things or things that we have changed. So let me show you some things that we kept. We did not get a new refrigerator. We kept the same one we've had for 20 years. It still looks pretty good. It's in good shape. It works well, so I did not see a reason to replace it. Same thing goes for the ovens. These ovens still look brand new and they work great. No need to get new ovens. They're stainless steel. They're in great condition, so we kept them. We just had them put back in when the new cabinets were installed. Of the appliances we kept, the stove is probably the most worn. It definitely has some wear on the knobs where the indicators are for the temperature, but it still looks pretty good and it works fantastic. I really like this gas stove. It's a Bosch, that's a great brand, so we decided to keep it. However, we did remove the microwave that was right above it. It was installed by the previous owners and it hung very low over the stove. It actually made it kind of difficult to film. And so we ended up just having the fan over the stove put in underneath the cabinetry. So unless you're standing right at the stove, you really can't even see it, but it still functions the way it should and it gives so much more room over the stove. So where did the microwave go? Let me show you. It was actually the suggestion of the carpenter who built the cabinets to move the microwave below the counter, to move it lower into a different spot of the kitchen. So it's actually right next to where the refrigerator is now. It's underneath the counter instead of above the counter where the cabinetry is, which makes it a little bit more accessible. And it is not hanging out over the stove anymore. And so we bought a new microwave and they built the cabinetry to fit it right here next to the refrigerator. An appliance purchase we weren't planning on making, but realized we were gonna have to after they got started, is the dishwasher. This is a new dishwasher. When they were demoing our kitchen and they pulled the old dishwasher out, they found a lot of problems underneath. They found mold and they found damage to the floors, and one thing led to another. It was like unraveling, you know, a loose thread on a sweater, and we discovered some problems that had to be fixed with the flooring, and it was likely caused by a slow leak coming from somewhere, possibly the dishwasher. So we decided to just play it on the safe side and get a new one. Fortunately, we had built in a little cushion into our budget because we knew that things would come up that we hadn't planned for, so we wanted to have a little extra money set aside to be able to pay for those things that weren't in the initial estimate. So new dishwasher, new microwave, but we kept the ovens, the stove, and the refrigerator, and that saved us a lot of money. Thank you so much for your patience as we navigated this kitchen renovation and as I cooked and made videos in our makeshift kitchen that I set up in our dining room. If you missed any of those videos and you want some ideas for how to make meals for your family in a less than ideal cooking situation, here's a couple of those videos that you can check out. Make sure that you're subscribed because I've got a lot of content coming your way here in the coming weeks.